everyone, it's Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Show, and we are back. I always say the one and only on every show, but there really is always one and only these certain people. And when you think about success, multifamily, young gun, there's only one guy you think about, and that is the amazing Mason Pony. You think you're Italian guy would get that right, Mason, wouldn't you? Hi, this is Rod Santomassimo, and welcome to the Massimo Show. The objective of the Massimo Show is to share how you can maximize your personal, professional margin. That's right. Let's make more money in less time. Let's turn chaos into clarity, confusion into confidence, and income into real wealth. Along with sharing my insight on how I grew a multi-million-dollar professional business, we're going to bring you the expert advice from a variety of authors, consultants, and thought leaders who will provide the tools you need to maximize your own personal and professional margin. Welcome to the Massimo Show. Where's the Fiascone? As my grandmother would say, Fiascone. So you buff me with you. I can't say that word on can't say that word on the podcast. But yes, Mason Fiascone, better though known as multifamily Mason. Was it multifam Mason? Which one is it?
Multifamily Mason. I was limited on the characters on the Twitter handle, so multifamily got dropped off. So it's multifam Mason on Twitter.
Multifam Mason. Let me say it right now. If you learn anything from this podcast, if you don't follow Mason, you are not going to grow your business. Let me repeat that. If you do not follow Mason, I don't care if you're doing this for 30 years or 3 weeks, you will not grow your business. Mason provides the framework, playbook, frankly, to be successful in commercial real estate. Now, before we move forward, I'm always transparent with our audience. Mason is a member, a coaching client of the Massimo Group. So Mason, welcome to the Massimo Show.
Thank you for having me. And I was going to say, I share everything that I learn, everything I do on Twitter, basically. Being here forces me to continue to do that because now we're talking about it. But also like 50%, maybe more, maybe 75% of what I've learned has come from the Massimo Group. I started with you guys when I was 2 months into being a broker, and I'm still learning every day. So you could pretty much follow my Twitter feed and you'd probably learn half of what Massimo would teach you, but not quite as well. So I'm grateful to the Massimo Group.
Mason, you're not supposed to share what we teach you in Massimo, but that's okay because I love you.
I'm doing the work. Yeah.
So just do it. But it's not the knowing, it's the doing. And that's the point. So Mason, let's do a quick recap. When you were last on the show, you were just starting out. This actually were beyond starting out, but your story was you were just starting out. How many months have you been in commercial real estate now? Total months?
21 months. 21
months, right? And you first started out with duplexes and a couple of quads, and you were selling those, and you're saying, what can I do? Mason, I got a quick question. How many listings do you have today?
I have 9 listings today.
9 listings. Are they all duplexes and quads?
No. The average deal size right now is about $6 million, anywhere from 30 to 50 units. Closed anywhere from 4plex up to 136 unit property.
So the young kid's done a lot. And going from 4plexes to 136 unit closings. He's closed those deals. So fair to say your life has changed in the last 21 months?
Yeah, life is completely altered. Trajectory has changed compared to the goals I set when I got in the industry. I told my wife, we were talking about it the other night as I was reflecting on the second quarter and the first half of the year. I said, I braced her for 2 years of eating ramen and living on scraps. And the first 2 years we've been beyond blessed. And I'm very grateful for the business and that I jumped in at the time I did. A little bit of luck in the market, a lot of hard work, and just kind of a confluence of perfect timing.
You know, while I will agree with you, I'll challenge you on this little luck in the market. There are a lot of people that started when you started that are still struggling today. Absolutely true. So you make your own luck. When I know, look, I work with some of the most high producing brokers in the world at the Massimo Group. We work with them. Few work harder than you. It's just a fact. They do. You are dedicated and committed to commercial real estate. Is that fair to say?
Definitely. I think I shared on the last time, but I was tracking my numbers from last year, 2021. I noticed that I did about 240 hours of coaching content. So videos, group calls, doing the work, the worksheets, put about 240 hours into just working on the business, let alone all the times on the phone and working deals and all that. So learning the markets too. So absolutely do the work.
I can't share the specifics, so I'm not going to do that. But there's only one thing on my desk that I have from a member. Only one thing. Look, we have hundreds of clients across North America. And I'll show it on the video, but you can't see it on the podcast, obviously. But this is a 7-page back and front document. I think it's in 6-point font because guys know I can't read it. But it's Mason's business plan of every aspect that he's going to hit. And knowing how I follow Mason now, because he's a client of ours and seeing what he's doing, he's hitting all the metrics he set out to hit, and he's having the results he has. So Mason, enough glorification of Mason. You are the man.
Please.
You are a multifamily Mason. So multifam Mason, excuse me. Twitter, don't forget. But it's more than Twitter, Mason. So does people saying, what does this kid do? So we can't go into it all, but does the fact that you have such a strong presence and you create this strong presence in such a small period of time, has that helped you at all?
Yes, definitely. I always tell people coaching, my wife taking a bet on me, and a couple key connectors were the catalysts that have pushed my business forward. Those are kind of the top three things. Those couple key connectors were very much a part of presence. And then everything else from there feels like it's been presence and has put momentum in the business. So I'm a big fan of everything presence based, like getting my name out there. And I've clarified, and it's obvious to most, but read the Flywheel book and kind of built my Flywheel, which is first, build market presence. Second, run effective prospecting campaigns. Third, work with high quality clients in my niche, which are multifamily listings in the Inland Northwest. And then fourth, exceed expectations on each deal. When I exceed expectations, then my presence grows in the market and that flywheel keeps moving. So the first piece on my flywheel is presence. If I do presence right, my prospecting campaigns are way more effective. I get more deals done and I exceed expectations and the flywheel keeps moving. So presence is the number one. It's the top of the list. I was unaware of presence and kind of that impact. I knew about networking and marketing, but unaware of like the crystallization of it being presence until I joined the elite coaching with the Massimo group. And my specific coach, my one-on-one coach, his number one thing was presence, and it's what fueled his business and brokerage. And so he really pushed me towards that. And it's maybe something I would have glossed over and said, no, I'm just going to make a bunch of prospect calls all day long. Well, presence has really pushed that whole machine forward way faster than I ever could have anticipated.
Wow. Very well articulated. And again, just remind the audience, where are you from? Where are you working?
I'm in the Tri-Cities, Washington, which is in the eastern half of the state. It's a desert out here, not all rainy like Seattle. And I cover the Inland Northwest, which is eastern Washington, northeast Oregon, and northern Idaho.
Okay, awesome. And at Massimo, we talk about the peak factor, and presence will always come before prospecting because it's just easier to prospect. But does presence in itself, here's the question, because people will argue this, does presence in itself create business? Just having a presence. So has it ever happened to you? Your pure presence without prospecting created you business?
Yeah, I could share a handful of stories, but I think the most impactful one is an owner of a 58 unit outside of Spokane, Washington, called me one day out of the blue. Didn't have her number, didn't know who she was. She called me and said, "Hey, Mason, I get your newsletter, and I was wondering if you could do a broker opinion of value on my property." So I had added her to my newsletter, and she was on there for 6 months. She kind of came inbound, and I never called her. Didn't actually know she owned 58 units because it was a portfolio of fourplexes. I didn't know it. So she called me, and 2 weeks later, we sat down in her office and I walked through the value, and she said, "I'm ready to sell. I knew I was going to hire you before I even met you based on your newsletter. You stand out from anyone else I've ever worked with. Your writing ability is very clear. And so I know that you can think well because you write well." And 90 days later, we closed on a 58 unit, which was at the time a very big deal for me and was my largest commission check to date. And I never called her, purely presence. And we went from a 6-month relationship to a 3-month close to under a year, my largest commission on that deal. And so that was pure presence, no prospecting.
So let's break this down for the audience a little bit. Okay. And then we're going to break it down even further. We'll talk about that, how. But let's break it down. You really leverage presence in a variety of factors. I think it's fair to say you're famous on Twitter. Is that a fair? Yeah, you are.
Barely famous. No, I'm like on the lower tier of all things real estate Twitter. Yeah.
But you are. You got to create this following on Twitter, as well as Facebook and LinkedIn. And as a multifamily guide, are you posting on Instagram? Yes, no. TikTok? Yes, no.
Not on Instagram or TikTok. Nope. I just have not prioritized. But I think like my presence is there's some physical presence like mailers and things like the Christmas cards. Those are more rare for me. Then there's digital presence. And then there's kind of one-on-one networking, meetings, getting to know people. But digital presence is definitely where I put the most focus on. And then within digital presence, it's email, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook in that order. Emails first, Twitter second.
Email, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Got it. So do you also then, with this presence elements, you create a sequencing in your prospecting efforts? How does prospecting fit in your presence campaigns?
So for the most part, the presence is kind of built around a monthly newsletter where I just write about what's going on in the market. I take the themes and the trends nationally, regionally, locally, and I talk about really put myself in the shoes of my avatar, which is a 70-year-old multifamily owner who's owned a 1970s building for more than 15 years, kind of has one or two kids involved in the business, but is thinking more about simplification of their portfolio than they are about maximizing their investment. That's my ideal target prospect. And so when I write my monthly newsletter, I just think, what might they care about that I've learned in the market in the past month because they're not as active? So I talk about the market, but I do pull through themes and threads throughout the year. I know based on the cycle of real estate throughout the year, what is going to come up. And I try to tie a thread through the year, or at least through the quarter, through those newsletters while giving them relevant and specific information. And then for the most part, my opening statement to that same owner relates quite directly back to the newsletter and what they've already been hearing from me about. So I'll call them and they'll go, yeah, I remember you said that in your newsletter last month. And I'll say, well, tell me about what you thought of that. And we start immediately having a conversation versus me just pitching them or trying to set a meeting right away, things like that. So the newsletter is kind of the linchpin there and the key, and everything else builds off that. The prospect opening statements, what I'm posting on Twitter, everything else kind of comes back to those insights that I'm providing every month. And those insights and what I provide to the market is unique, stands out, and makes people think, yeah, Mason would be a person that I might want to work with.
Well, there you go. And I think it's very important what you said earlier, that you know your avatar, right? The elderly owner, 7 years old, they're elderly, they are, right? So they're not going to be on Instagram. They're not going to be on TikTok. They may be on Facebook very well. And their influencers and their circle of authority may be, in fact, on Twitter. They might be, and certainly maybe on LinkedIn. So therefore, you're encompassing that avatar with those platforms. I see that again and again. People make mistakes. Hey, I'm going to do a whole TikTok campaign. Well, that's great. Are your clients on TikTok? Maybe their kids are, but I don't know, right? I think I did one TikTok my entire career, and I said, this is not for Massimo clients. Yeah. So we stopped.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, it's Rod Santomassimo, and I got great news for you. I have taken the lessons of the last 30 years, all the conferences I went to, and I packaged the best of the best aspects and even plussed it in a conference we're calling MassimoCon. It is going to share with you and give you direct access to 9, 7, and 8-figure producers, some amazing keynote speakers, and so much more. Oh, it's a live 2-day event in Dallas on November 2nd and 3rd. You've got to be there if you're dedicated to making sure you get in position to dominate CRE in 2023. MassimoCon is on, baby. You've got to get there. Check our social posts, check our website for your information. And yes, get there because only a limited number of seats left. Hope to see you at MassimoCon. So Mason, is there a game plan that you would say this is the right way to do something? Yes or no?
Definitely. I have a playbook that I've followed and that I could share. Yeah.
Okay. When are you going to share it?
Well, I'll share it in November at MassimoCon. I'll be there as one of the speakers. I'm pretty humbled to be up on stage with a lot of people who've got a lot more experience and expertise in the business than I do. But I'm going to share everything as it relates to digital presence and what the impact has been on my business, some more stories like that 58 unit I mentioned, and then get into the nuts and bolts of how I do it, what I write, when I post, how I do it, how I track it from A to Z.
Okay. So folks, you just heard it. Mason's going to be the youngest presenter, and they're all, including Mason, they're all 7 or 8-figure producers on the big stage. Mason will be the youngest, but by far not the least valuable because what he has to share impacts everybody. And you got to get your butts to MassimoCon. It's all about dominating CRE in 2023. That's our conference, biggest conference of the history of Massimo. Mason's going to be one of the key speakers there. He's going to share his specifics, not just theory, but specific tactics of what you can do with a playbook to build a presence like the king himself, the multifam Mason of Twitter. Mason, I can't thank you enough for your time and your input and frankly, for your business and your trust. And you're doing more than just receiving information, but implementing it and seeing the results. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Really excited to see everyone in November and learn from a lot of great speakers and provide some value myself. So thanks for the time.
Thank you, buddy. And everyone else, Mason gave a lot of knowledge, but you know what we say, knowing isn't doing. Go out and follow Mason, see what he's doing, implement for yourself, or before then, register for MassimoCon. Until next time, this is Rod Santomassimo with The Massimo Show.
I want to thank you for listening to this version of the Massimo Show. And please, please go out and share this with your friends, your colleagues. Heck, share it with your dog. Just share it. And more importantly, just give me some feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. We all grow from understanding what our audience wants to hear. So until next time, this is Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Show.